Hello friends, it's Lisa and welcome to my bullet journal setup for the month of May. So for my May theme, I went with this fairy tale-esque theme. We have a castle, we have dragons, and I actually ended up getting my inspiration for this month's theme from the Bejeweled music video, the Taylor Swift song. As we all know, I am obsessed with Taylor Swift, and I knew in May I'm going to her concert. I'm seeing her on the Eras tour in May, and so I thought it'd be fun to base my May theme around something to do with Taylor Swift. The current tour that Taylor is on is her Eras tour, so it really is all about all of her albums, all of her different eras, which really left it pretty wide open for me to choose whatever I wanted to for my theme this month, because I could have done anything based off of any of her albums, or I could have tried to capture all of them in a single theme, and that's kind of what led me to watch the Bejeweled music video for some inspiration, because I knew in that video she kind of references and has Easter eggs to all of her albums. And in typical me fashion, I decided to go with kind of the most challenging thing that I could have chosen. There were a lot of other ideas that I had just from inspiration from the Bejeweled music video that would have been a lot easier. But then the scene at the very end when she's in the castle and there are dragons flying around her and there's this beautiful sunset in the background, I was like, you know, I think this might be what I have to do. So as you can see, I am sketching out this castle that I based off of the one that's at the end of the Bejeweled music video. I took many screenshots to get different angles of it and tried my best to kind of draw it, but obviously it's not exactly perfect. But the most important thing, I did have the little balcony that Taylor Swift was on, so that's really all that matters. But I really tried to replicate that castle and also added some little dragons as well. And because the sunset was happening in the background of that scene and I just thought the colors and everything was so stunning, I kind of tried to replicate that color palette and also kind of do a bit of a sunset in the background with the clouds. I just wanted to incorporate colors in that way because I think with the castle being very gray, because that's what I kind of end up coloring it in, I wanted there to be some color. So I took the sunset that's in the back of that scene as kind of inspiration for the color palette. Well, that was just one large run-on sentence, but anyway, voiceovers are just not my strong suit. But yeah, I'm kind of sketching out the castle and the dragons and the clouds first, and then I'm going in just to add a bit of color. I do at some points leave there to be like white spaces on the castle, but I did end up going in and just kind of filling in everything because I just felt like it looked weird and incomplete having some pieces of the castle not completely colored in. So I'm coloring in the castle gray. I have some green trees and like bushes at the front of the castle, and then for the clouds and the dragons themselves, I use these really pretty blue, purple, and like maroony pink colors. And because this theme has the castle and the dragons, and I was kind of going for this fairy tale-esque theme as well, I wanted the lettering that I chose from the month to also replicate that. So I think I ended up going on Pinterest and searching like fairy tale font or something and just taking a few different ones and trying to replicate it in a simple way, and I think that just adds to like the fairy tale kind of theme. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this theme and it was really fun to figure it all out. It definitely, like the castle itself, took me a while to sketch out and color in and everything, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I like also that this theme, it's Taylor Swift to me because, you know, I based it off of the Bejeweled music video, but it's not in your face Taylor Swift. So anyone could really do this and it could just be this like fairy tale fantasy type of theme, which I also really like. Oh, and I do also add some little stars and sparkles kind of around the spread because I don't know how to not add little stars everywhere with anything. So I feel like that always just happens in all of my spreads. But that is the title page done. So now we're moving on to my calendar spread. So for the actual calendar, I'm keeping it pretty simple and just drawing out the different boxes for the days of the month with a Micron black pen. And then I also, like when I fill in the numbers, I use the different colors that I was using for the sunset kind of vibe. When I fill in the clouds, I kind of wanted that gradient of the navy blue to the purple to the like maroon pinky color with the numbers as well. I really just wanted to incorporate as much color as I could because I feel like this theme could have been very like black, white, and gray with the castle and everything, so I liked adding a bit of color in the numbers and the lettering and with the dragons and everything. And around the calendar, I of course write May up at the top and then draw a couple different dragons, some more clouds, and color them in. And on the bottom right hand side, I also knew I had some space to write a little quote, so of course I had to put the line, "I had my time of my life, fighting dragons with you, from Long Live," by Taylor Swift. Of course I had to include it somewhere. It was just meant to be. So even though this theme was inspired a lot by Taylor Swift, I promise I won't talk too much about her in this voiceover because I know some of you probably don't care, but I can't help but talk about the Eras Tour a little bit, just a little bit, and my excitement, because I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see her after so many years, especially because I did have Loverfest tickets, RIP. So sad that that didn't end up happening, and it's so wild because funnily enough, I ended up with the same exact seats that I had for Loverfest. Don't know how that happened, because obviously I lost the Loverfest tickets when that was canceled, ended up going through the trenches to get Eras Tour tickets, and now have the same exact seats. Very strange. But it was just destined for me to sit in those exact seats and see Taylor Swift, so what can you say? I'm very excited, so anxious but excited to see what surprise songs I get the night that I'm there, and it's just gonna be very emotional, and I'm going to sob a lot. But definitely let me know if you have tickets for the Eras Tour, or if you've already seen her. We can just yell about Taylor Swift and how amazing she is in the comments below. But anyway, moving on. We've moved on to the next spread. I'm just too busy talking about Taylor Swift. So we are now on to my habit tracker. So I have 6 habits I'm going to be tracking this month. And again, to kind of create that blue, purple, and pink gradient like I did with the clouds, I wrote the habits in those same colors in the same order. So the first 2 habits on the top, when I read and when I wash my hair, I wrote in blue, and so on and so forth, just to kind of again bring some more color into the spread. Then I use the light gray marker to block off the days of the month that I don't actually need. They aren't actually days of the month of May. And then I wrote habits up at the top, again in that same kind of font and style. And then I did some clouds, the stars again, and that's pretty much it for the habit tracker spread. So now we're moving on to my playlist spread. So this is just going to be where I write down any of the songs I was listening to in the month of May, typically the new songs I just happen to discover or the new ones that come out in the month of May that I add to my current Spotify playlist. And I think again, when I write down the songs, I'm going to do that gradient again. So the first couple songs I list out, I will write in the blue marker, and then the next couple will be in the purple, and then the next in the pink, just to again bring some color into the spread. I really like the color palette. I think it's very fun, very pretty, so I knew I wanted to incorporate it more. But for the kind of design for this spread, I of course added a little dragon up at the top. I felt like we needed to have at least one on this page. And I also knew I wanted to incorporate the castle again somehow in one of these spreads, but without having to draw like the entire castle again, because that just would be way too much and would take way too long. So for the kind of box where I'm going to write down the songs that I've been listening to, I, on the outside of it, kind of created those columns, those towers that were kind of on the outside of the castle, just to kind of create a castle-ish look without having to draw too much of it, and I'll just write the songs in that big empty space in the middle. And I thought it was a fun way to kind of bring the castle back in without having to draw too much of it. So yeah, it was fun to kind of figure out how I was going to do the playlist spread and how I could incorporate the theme onto that page, and I'm just really excited to see this one fill out. I think it's going to be really cool and very colorful once I'm able to actually write in the songs and albums that I was listening to and be able to incorporate those colors. But I'm just really happy with these spreads. I feel like they turned out pretty well, and I feel like are functional but also really keep to the theme. Now moving on to my final spreads for this month. These are going to be my first couple of weekly spreads. So I'm writing week 1 and week 2 in the same kind of fairy tale font. And for the actual layout for the weekly spreads, I'm doing 6 boxes on each side, and 2 of the 12 boxes, I guess, in total will be cut in half for the weekend days. But I have done this kind of layout before. I think it was my March spreads I did this sort of layout, and instead of keeping week 1 on the left side and week 2 on the right side, I'm actually going to go across the top on both pages for week 1, and week 2 will be the bottom row, if that makes sense. You'll see when I actually number the boxes which days are what, but I just thought it would be a fun way to switch it up. And yeah, I'm looking for different ways to switch up my weekly spreads without it being not functional. I want my spreads to be functional and for them to work for me, but I do like to switch it up every once in a while. So I'm using the purple and pink markers to color in the titles for week 1 and week 2. Then I use the navy blue for the numbers of the days of the week. And then of course I add in some stars in the kind of empty space, but I'm really happy with how these weekly spreads turned out. I feel like I'm going to have to do this again in the future. But that is it for my bullet journal setup for the month of May. So here's a flip through of how all of the spreads turned out. I really like how this theme came out, very Taylor Swift Bejeweled music video inspired, but it's just very like fantastical and fairy tale-esque, and definitely made me excited to see Taylor Swift on the Eras tour. If you are a Taylor Swift fan, I would love to know your favorite Taylor song, or if you have a bullet journal, definitely let me know what theme you decided to go with for May. But that is going to be it for my May bullet journal setup. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.